Elmer Beard. And we are two Southern conservatives in conversation. I believe that's it.
Might be okay. Let's try that one. They're actually literally gutting the departments of our government, most of which have been engaged in investigating Mr. Musk for some of his questionable business practices in regard to, Neuralink, which is a company that he owns, which is designing chips to implant into people's brains. And the Food and Drug Administration was wondering if he was doing everything right in the National Institutes of Health. And then also you might have noticed that he just completely shut down, without any congressional oversight, feedback, information from them whatsoever, the Department of USAID.
USAID shut down.
And though that organization was also investigating Elon Musk for his other activities that he was engaged in. And, it makes it very obvious that, his motivation really has very little to do with government efficiency and a lot to do with Elon Musk making a lot of money and getting a lot of contracts from the U.S. government. Makes you wonder what's going to happen to his competitors who don't have this kind of access. Are they going to have any government contracts going forward, or they all go to Mr. Musk?
There are other billionaires, probably not near his status financially. They would be concerned also about how much information that he gets in his work and his volunteerism in the White House.
Yeah.
When it comes to contract, because they want to be richer than they are, just as he wants to continue to be the richest that we have ever known.
Well, I think we're in a hugely unprecedented situation because historically authoritarians didn't have this much money, power, or technological expertise. And for those of us who paid a little bit of attention to Inauguration Day, we saw, 6 people up there from Apple, TikTok, Amazon, Facebook,
Art, communication,
Tesla,
wealth.
Yeah, and Google. And they were all standing up there, and you look at those guys, and they were, collectively, individually worth more than $1 trillion US dollars, which is about 1/30 of our total economic output in a year from the United States, which is pretty close to $30 trillion. So yes, 6 guys who have $1 trillion, and it makes you wonder what their plans are for the little people out here. And I guess probably it's more likely that they're interested in how they're going to retain their power and extract as much money from the United States as they can. We can see the devastating influence and errors that they've already made in this Doge project by firing, initially the head of the Federal Aviation Administration, and then a bunch of people under him, and then how suddenly we have a lot more airline crashes than we've had in decades.
It's been pretty often recently about these airline crashes, and it caused us to wonder what's the relationship of it to some of the cuts that have been made. Some of these things, Mark, have had to be walked back recently, some of the decisions they've made.
Oh, like firing the guys that are taking care of our nuclear arsenal.
Some people have to be rehired, or many people are going to be hurt.
Yeah, demonstrating a lack of competence. Because the people that they're firing, we could save money, but, if we're all dead, we won't notice that anymore. If we've blown the world to pieces starting a thermonuclear conflagration. It's not a really good move. But I mean, there's so much to all of this, and I think we really need to say, my personal feeling is that people who believe, like the two of us conservatives here, that we want to get our democracy back, are actually the majority of people who live in this country. regardless of how you voted or didn't vote at all. We would prefer to have a country where the people's vote does matter and we get representation that actually reflects at least a little bit what we would like to see.
We do not want to be so wealthy in this country by a few that we destroy ourselves, or that we put the minority in a worse shape than it would have been in if we didn't have the powerful and rich in abundance and large numbers at the top. And that's not even being scripture. If I worked 4 jobs at one time or another, back in not 1899,
19 something,
probably in the mid 80s, to get to where I am now, I shouldn't have to suffer in my lifetime if I worked as many as 4 jobs at one time that led to my retirement in 1999, not 1899.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful to have gotten to be where I am. And I don't want my Social Security cut because somebody died, one person out of whatever the number is, and they continue to get paid. Don't cut mine. Somebody ripped the government off, a person or some persons. It probably has always happened, regardless to who was in power.
Of course it has. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge system. There's going to be a few exceptions once in a while that prove the rule that most people are collecting Social Security that they're fully entitled to under the law of our nation, and citizens have supported that set of payments for a really long time, and it seems to have worked out well overall for our economy. It's kind of interesting that our new regime now is sort of ignoring one of the largest points of government inefficiency and waste, and that's the largest department, which is the Department of Defense.
That's correct.
I think the Department of Offense may be also applicable. But they in fact have failed the last 17 audits. In other words, they have not fully demonstrated their accuracy in, their accounting system. And they're wasting a lot of taxpayers' dollars, a lot more. Probably there's more waste in the Pentagon, I'm guessing, than there is actual money going out for a lot of these. Certainly for the USAID, it's a tiny fraction. And probably a substantial, huge percentage of whatever is paid out to Social Security is probably accounted for in the waste of our Defense Department. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm looking forward to drawing Social Security many more years.
Yes, I'm looking forward to you doing that as well, and I would prefer to keep going with it. It's a very important part of my living expense. Without it, my life would be really, really different.
I think about my first wife leaving or dying at age 65.
Yeah.
Her Social Security was paid. Somebody else is drawing that now. My second wife, I was in her early 70s. She was gone. Her Social Security was paid. Somebody's drawing that now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel
right
that I'm taking in one Social Security. I feel I've earned all of this.
No.
If the government thinks I'm an expense to them, I earned this expense that I'm costing them at my age 87.
I'm reflecting on watching Elon Musk standing and towering over the president in the Oval Office with his son on his shoulders, his young toddler son, and the president just kind of slumping over his desk and
a little bit
looking
leaning.
up and
he
going,
was kind of now looking up. That did happen. He kind of leaned over and looked up,
and kind of. I think Elon at some point said, "Yeah, I'm going to make some mistakes and say some things wrong." After he already misinformed, 46 million people that viewed one of his false tweets. And once the barn door is open, I don't know. How are we going to get back our data that Elon has already accessed? We have no idea how that can even work. So I believe that the United States of America is in a real crisis right now, a constitutional crisis, a conscience crisis, and an information crisis. One of the reasons I think that Elmer and I are here talking with you folks is that we would want to hear back from you, and we also want to keep promoting this idea that we really don't agree with the disinformation and misinformation we're being inundated with, people are being flooded with, and their minds are being radically changed by. You know, I mean, it's an interesting notion if you just take somebody who's as well known a figure as Ted Cruz in Texas, who ran against Donald Trump, and when
At one time
when Ted Cruz won the Iowa caucus, the first thing that Donald Trump said was he cheated and the election was stolen.
We heard that many times coming from Brother Donald.
And he called he called him Lion Ted, and Donald Trump called Ted Lion Ted, and he told us that Ted's father was part of the conspiracy to assassinate John Kennedy. And now Ted can't lick hard enough on Donald Trump's boots, putting things in a nice way. And it's kind of amazing how many people have made that transition from being aware that Donald Trump was a liar, a con man, and a criminal, and he couldn't be trusted, to saying, well, we support him and we vote for him, and whatever he says, we're just going to, he says jump and we say how high. What happened to their minds? Do you wonder if you've had a different opinion yourself, perhaps, of Donald Trump when you first were introduced to him and you thought, man, this guy is really not okay, and now you went out and voted for him? Do you wonder what happened to yourself? I don't know.
Yeah. Your new self, is Donald the same person that looked up on you as a joke and said those things about you that you wouldn't have accepted from anyone else? So there we are. I think there was one family or one person that didn't really lick up to him or look up to him or try to make him be what he was not, and that was the Bush family. They just remained kind of quiet after the Bush attempted to become president. They just watched him, and I never know how they felt about it when it came to voting. They were just quiet.
Yeah. Pretty few and far between any examples of courage on the Republican Party's side. As far as I can see, you got a couple of examples, Adam Kissinger and Liz Cheney and her dad, who came out and said, hey, this guy is not fit to be president. He's not above the law. He did incite an insurrection. All of us were able to watch that on television if you had any interest at that time. Certainly got my attention on January 6, 2021.
Shall never forget it.
To keep watching and watching and watching all the film that was coming out at that point. And of course, so many people there in the crowd also filmed it. And we have so many feeds of data that we can see that the people were enraged, and they were saying, not that, my president told me to come here and hang Mike Pence.
We heard that over and over again.
And smashing the building, defecating and peeing inside the Capitol, and waving a Confederate flag around. And
Mike Pence shows up at his inauguration, but Mike's wife, I don't think she showed up.
Yeah, I was a little embarrassed to see the former presidents, Biden, Obama. Yeah. And our former governor here, Bill Jefferson Clinton.
They were there. They were there.
And it's like, come on, folks. You're honoring somebody who, has been convicted of starting an insurrection in Colorado. The information and the trial went before a Colorado judge, and then the verdict of guilty for Donald Trump was appealed to the Colorado Supreme Court, and the Colorado Supreme Court majority said, we agree with this. Donald Trump is not eligible to be on the ballot, because he incited an insurrection against our country. And it says right there in the 14th Amendment, Article 3, anybody that behaves that way is no longer eligible to be on the ballot and hold any office.
That will make it, or is making it, very difficult to get young people to become interested in running for public office. And we don't know how long this will last. Many of them will have the question, what for? Why would I want to be involved in anything like this?
Yeah.
Was this all a joke?
In a system that has been so completely turned upside down and corrupted.
And when they are taught ninth grade civics, or whatever they are taught in ninth grade, whatever social studies, government, political science, is going to be generally, particularly opposite from what they have seen in their lifetime. It would be difficult to teach political science now in a book that's written that excludes January the 6th.